Here to treat. Alrighty, welcome to Leadership Education, Chapter 6, Lesson 3, the Constitution of the United States. This is one of the most important lessons we go through the whole year. That's sort of why I keep it here towards the end of the year. We're going to start it here the third quarter, and we will be finishing it the fourth quarter. And we're going to take our time. And truly, by the end of this one lesson, or two lessons, you will probably know more about the Constitution than anybody else in your family, and probably in a little more detail than in any other classes you go through in high school. So we'll start with that on Chapter 6, Lesson 3. Here is a question for you. What is different about our Constitution than the French Constitution, or the Canadian Constitution, or the Mexican Constitution? What's different?
We guarantee rights.
We guarantee rights, and also something called separation of powers, right? When we actually have the arguments now, we have a conflict. What country over in the Middle East do we have a conflict where the government's whooping up and killing all the civilians? Libya? Close, but that too. But over there, sort of near the Middle East. Egypt? Well, that's true. That's exactly right. They have a government that's actually beating up on their civilians. But I was thinking mainly of Syria, where they have a person who's the king, and he's annihilating, he's assassinating, killing 100,000 of his civilians. And there's even talk of chemical warfare, which is unbelievable. They don't have a constitution like us. One of the things that I like to remind the classes, and I think I mentioned in this class, maybe I didn't, was that when George Bush was first elected, this is Papa Daddy Bush, and son Bush, was elected, and he beat Al Gore. It was a contested election in the year 2000, and with that, we had quite a few days, like 30 days, where we didn't know who the president was. And if you think about that, they say, oh, it's so horrible. The Supreme Court had a big decision, all this horrible chaos. Well, it was pretty much a lot of chaos in America. You imagine the people in the news and everything. But the thing that was amazing is because of the Constitution, because of the way we run our business, we did not have tanks in the city taking command. We didn't have our General Petraeus or Colin Powell taking over America because he owns the tanks and the guns. That's not the way we work. Other countries in the world, that's exactly what they do. They do. And whereas most of the other dictators started off as lieutenants, then generals, and they're charged in the army, they own the tanks, and they take over the country. Happens a lot, mostly, shall we say. And so it was pretty much a tough time for America not to know who the president was, but it was actually a pretty neat thing to see it as an adult. I hope it never happens for you guys again. But that is really why I believe in the Constitution and the fact that we do have such a unique situation here in America. I think this truly is one of the things that makes America great, is our Constitution. Okay, we're going to go over it, and we're talking about the remarkable document, where it came from. What does preamble mean, Cadet Stephen Carroll?
Before something starts.
There you go. It's the first words of it, right? What does an article mean? What does an article mean, Cadet Haslam?
Different sections of it.
Exactly. Article of clothing is a part of your clothing. Article of Constitution is a part of the Constitution. Okay? And the key thing, and I truly think this is one of the things that make America great, is the fact that the separation of powers. It truly, truly doesn't exist in any other country in the world. The executive power, what does the executive branch mean? Cadet Johnson?
The executive branch is...
Who's in charge of the executive branch?
The president.
Ding, 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 ding. Thank you very much. Good job. Who's in charge of the judicial branch? Cadet Overton. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, very good. And what about the legislative branch? Cadet Knickerbocker.
Legislative makes the laws.
So who's that? Who makes the laws in America? You do?
Oh, we vote on them
Okay, but does the president say, this is law?
under executive order.
Well, rare, but the answer can be turned over in a second. Who makes the laws in America?
Is it Congress?
Congress. How many people in Congress? You're getting close there.
62?
Close. Keep going up, 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 up. How many senators do we have?
2 for each.
100.
2 for each state. Ding, ding, ding. 100. Okay, how many congressmen do we have? Congressmen, Congress lady. How many?
9.
9? Well, actually, in Arizona. Good point. But I mean, in America, how many congressmen do we have?
Don't we have below 400, sir?
425 plus 100 is 525. What is happening tonight, which is rather important if you're not playing video games the whole time, it might be good to watch. Yes, sir.
State of the Union address.
Ding, 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 ding. And what is the State of the Union? What happens then?
The president addresses the nation.
He addresses the nation, and does he address Congress?
Yes.
Who in Congress? Who of those 525?
Oh, state representatives?
All of them. I mean, 100. It's a joint meeting of everyone in Congress. Is the judicial branch there?
Nope.
Yes, all of the Supreme Court justice. As a matter of fact, Tom Clancy, who's an old guy my age, but he wrote books. A very famous book he wrote was a book where a terrorist got a plane and turned it into a missile, just like 9/11 actually, and he wiped out the building of Congress. He wiped out the Capitol building during the State of the Union. And guess what? 525 people are dead. The entire Congress and executive, judicial branch is wiped out. I mean, that was science fiction, but could that happen tonight?
Easily. Yes. Well, I wouldn't say easily, but...
Well, guess what? Somebody figured about it. I mean, this is a writer who writes fiction, but it was a good idea. They actually choose to have one senator and one congressman not go for that exact reason. If there's a nuke, our country is not going to be wiped out. But it's pretty interesting. And a lot of times they pick the youngest guy so he can't see the president. It does happen.
Hey.
Yes, Cadet Haslam.
Technically speaking, I think I actually know the name of that book. I believe it was Debt of Honor.
I'm not really sure what it was, but it was kind of eerie how close it was to 9/11 and written 10 years earlier. Yes?
So the vice president is going to be there too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Secretary of Defense.
Right? I mean, it's a neat thing to watch. It takes an hour, but you see everybody in our entire Congress there. I'm sure the Medal of Honor winner we saw yesterday will be there. I think, matter of fact, I heard that he's going to be a guest of the president's wife, Ms. Obama. So anyway, this is a neat thing that's happening. Article 4 of the Constitution, we learned all about the articles, 5, 6, 7, 8, amendments. You know, when they sit there and go, we should have an amendment to not burn the flag, right? Or what other amendments have you heard? We should have an amendment to...
The first 10 amendments of the bill.
Amendment to make English our primary national language. It's not that easy to have amendments. It's not that easy. I mean, we've been doing this for over 200 years, and it's not that easy to have amendments. But here's a question. Have we ever had an amendment to the Constitution, because it's not easy, to be overturned?
Yes, sir.
What?
The illegal drinking or no alcohol.
Ding, 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 ding. You guys have got it. Prohibition, right? You shall not drink. 1919. My mother was born that year. That's why I remember it. And so 1919, you shall not drink. It's illegal to have alcohol in America. It is hard to have an amendment. Do you know how hard it is? And they still did it. That's pretty amazing. After World War I. And then it continued, you'll learn this. I think it continued until 31. And then they had another amendment to turn off the First Amendment. You know, so it's kind of crazy. We'll go through all this.
That part about the amendment, sir, is that you can't say, oh, this amendment is out now. You have to create another amendment to cancel out that.
That's what they did. Here is an important thing. When I was in high school, when I was a junior in high school, I took constitutional law, or you just call it U.S. history. Okay, but my teacher went through this, which I'm going through with you guys. The first thing she said is that on the first day of class, she wrote on the board, the United States Constitution is not what you read. It's not the words you read. It's not what you think it is. The Constitution is only what is interpreted by the United States Supreme Court today. Today. And if the United States Supreme Court tomorrow, led by Cadet Petrovich, Mr. Petrovich, Supreme Court Justice, and he changes the way the Constitution is interpreted tomorrow, what is the Constitution? It's like he said it is. And it changes. Okay? Just like we argue about the words in the Constitution now. Doesn't matter what you say. It's what the Supreme Court says it is. And that's really the one main thing you need to think about. Okay. So we can really start here on page 299, talking about a remarkable document. The framers of the Constitution. Who was the author of the Constitution?
James Madison, sir.
Here's a question. When was the Constitution written? 1776, right? Thank you very much for trying. When was the Constitution written? Cadet Petrovich, McGee. Well, give me a year. How about that?
Is it 74, sir?
74? So we sat there and wrote out this Constitution while we're British subjects, and we say, we're going to have this big war, and we're going to beat you guys, and we're going to establish this.
Our Constitution was based off the English Bill of Rights.
True, but did we write it before the war? What are we worrying about before the war?
Dying.
Whether or not all the fighting and dying and all the states, those bad Southerners arguing about it, this and the Northerners, we had a lot to worry about other than establishing a fabulous document. So, guys, when was the Constitution written? There's something called the book. And actually, you know what? It's not in the book. It was written in 1700 and what? 17? Before or after the after 1787, 1786, okay, was the actual 1787. The Constitution was adopted September 17th. I didn't know that date. That's right after my wife's birthday. So truly, it was 1787, and then guess what? It had to be adopted by back then, they didn't have internet, they didn't have electricity, really. They were road riding things around on horses. And it took almost 2 years for the states to ratify it. Kind of crazy. So, the Constitution was done, what? 11 years after 1776? It took them that long to argue about it and figure out these details. It didn't happen overnight. Didn't happen overnight. And then they started adding amendments, and actually the first 10 amendments, which is also called what? Bill of Rights. That's what makes America great. I'm telling you, that's what guarantees our rights. It took what? Another whole 2 years to do that, to add those first 10 amendments right up front. Why did they do that? Why didn't they put it right in the Constitution in 1787?
They didn't think of it then?
You're right. I mean, I personally think, that they say, hey, we can get this validated. Let's do it right now, and then we'll come back and make everything better, a more perfect union. Okay, that's truly the thing, truly the reason. So when you look at the Constitution, realize that it was not done prior to our Revolutionary War. It was done afterwards, after the war. All righty. As we talked about, it created the 3 branches of government. It guided the process for 200 years. And of course, for America, even today, I mean, you hear about it every day in the news about Second Amendment rights, right to vote, all this stuff. You argue about the Constitution every day. You don't hear about Egypt or Turkey or Mexico arguing about the Constitution. They don't do that. America is very proud of its 200 years. You don't hear about, when was the last time everybody heard of the Chinese Constitution? 5,000 years old. No, doesn't exist. We're very proud of it. This is part of America. Okay. All right, the preamble. You're going to read. Somebody's going to read. Somebody come up here and let's have you on the show. Can you read? Can you read in public there, Cadet? Conrad Carroll, please come up here in front of the big screen and I will put you online. And I want you to read aloud the preamble. Oh, come on, you can stand. Smile, wave at your fans. Just kidding.
There we go. Ready?
Hold it. I'm gonna put you just smiley face there. Oh my gosh, this is gonna break the camera. Do I have insurance on breaking the camera? All right, read the preamble to the United States Constitution.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
All righty, everybody give him a round of applause. Great job, great job. So, up front, the preamble is our preface, our beginning of the Constitution. And oh, by the way, other constitutions in the world prior to ours did not have a preamble. And guess what? After ours, some of them do. They literally copied this. The idea that it introduced the Constitution, stated reasons why the government was established. What are the reasons in there that the government was established there, Cadet Navarra?
To keep order, so...
Read the preamble. Why was our government established?
Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and to provide common defense, promote general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and prosperity.
Okay, what is posterity? Is that your rear end? Is that your posterior? Is the posterior... I'm going to get in trouble. Is the posterior related to your posterity? Okay, Walensky, wake up. Is your posterior related to your posterity?
No, sir.
What is the difference? It is your posterior related to your prosperity.
Doesn't it mean till the end, sir?
Posterity means to the end?
The
end of what?
Ending of the United States of America. Posture.
We're going to do, let's see, the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. Yes, sir.
Isn't it like our children?
Ding, 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 ding. Thank you. It doesn't have anything to do with your posterior or your prosperity. I'm sorry. I got a Diet Coke high here. All right, so our posterity. So therefore, think about it. We, the people of the United States, to form a more perfect union. I think that was pretty neat how he said that. We're not, it's not ever going to be perfect. Guys, things are going to change all the time. But more perfect. And I'm telling you, America really, really does air, put on the internet, put on the news, all our bumps and warts. Do you realize that? When people have affairs, do we ignore that?
No.
When we have a 4-star general portray us, and he has an affair, do we go, you know what, he's a real good guy, don't worry about it. We put it on the national TV, and what do we do to it?
Put it everywhere.
See ya. Yeah, when our president has an affair with an underling, do we say, oh, you know what, he's really a good guy, he's done a lot of good things? No, we put all our warts and all our bumps out there for the world to see, and we're trying to get a more perfect union. So those are very, very famous words in there that come out why our government was established. And it declares right up front there in the preamble that the power of the government comes from whom? The people of the United States. Does it come from the landowners? Avoid out the wealthy people that own all the slaves. Is that who it comes from?
No.
Well, it actually does. Later on, we'll get there. We changed that. We changed that part. The people who wrote the Constitution, who were the people that wrote the Constitution? Who are the people that signed the Constitution? Were they representative of America? They're the elected officials?
No, they were the rich white people.
They were the rich white boys that owned all the slaves. Were they farmers that plowed the plows and all? No. They were the guys that had thousands of people working for them. They were the rich bankers and the rich slave owners. They were the wealthy white boys. And they weren't the Native Americans. How many Native Americans were there? How many black people did this affect? Was anybody else sitting there on the Constitutional Committee? No.
Well, it says free equal rights for all, inalienable rights.
That's a very arguable point, but these people did not do it the first time, right? And that's why we have amendments. Okay. The Articles. Rather important. Articles, the parts of the Constitution. And this is pretty neat. LEJ. Remember that. Legislative, executive, judicial. Article 1, 2, 3 is LEJ. Just as easy as that. And you should remember that the rest of your life. So when they say Article 1 of the, you go, oh, well, Article 1 is legislative. Okay, that's Congress. Article 2, executive. That's the president. What is Article 3, guys? Yeah, the Supreme Court. And it's just as simple as that. But what is the shortest section there of the first article?
Article 1, sir?
Yeah, what is it? What does Article 1 mean there on page 300? Cadet Bean.
What it means or what it says?
Yeah, it says over there on the right. Well, what it means, Article 1.
The Constitution contains 7 divisions called articles. Each article covers a general topic, and then most of the articles are divided into sections, is what it says.
Exactly. The legislative power. Oh, hold on. We got to see. Who's the next person to read? Cadet Overton, come up here and let's have you read in front of everybody. Oh, she loves it. Oh, sir, I didn't dress for the occasion. That's okay. That's okay. Well, I had to wake up, and I had to wake up so that you can come up here and I tell you what. Why don't we? Should we really challenge you? No. How about let's let you read section 1 and 2, just slowly and quietly and distinctly.
Slowly.
All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of several states, and the elector in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included with this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and including Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 3,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When these happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment.
Look on the section 2, number 5. The House of Representatives shall choose. Why is there a misspelling there? Thank you.
It's just a whole different time.
That's how they spelt it, right back there. Isn't that amazing how they changed? All righty. Super. Everybody give her a round of applause. Yay. Good job. All righty. The bottom line, what she just read you, was, in the way it has in a book, in case you haven't figured out, everything that is in, what is that, magenta? You got the black print, and then you got the sort of blue print, blue-green print. That blue-green print has been overcome by history, right? Changed. So you know what? I just love it when certain factions of America go, we can't change the Constitution. We got to follow it just like it's written. I have original interpretation of the Constitution. You know what? We can't change anything. Those people knew what was going on. Do you see how much has been changed? I mean, this is a lot. You got to be kidding me. The Constitution, to me, is a living document that should be changed, and these people knew it.
The Constitution is supposed to change with the time.
Well, there's two different philosophies. It's either black or white. It's either pregnant or not. You're either a constitutional originalist, or like you just said, Stephen, you believe the Constitution has changed. And honestly, you're either one or the other. Yeah. The people in the Supreme Court, you can go online and see what they think. They either believe you should change the time or stay the same. But I'm just telling you, flip through now, page 300, 301, and you look there on 304. They took out a whole section there. I mean, they have changed the Constitution a good bit. Top of page 309, an entire another section. It is changed throughout history a lot.
Well, they took out that blue part in Section 9, Article 1 for a reason. It has to do with slavery.
I know. Well, guess what? The people who wrote the Constitution, who were so smart that we can't change it, were slave owners. So guess what? We think they kind of made it. Times changed, right? And we changed it. All right, page 300. Like I said, Section 2 that Cadet Overton just read. What out of Section 2? What did y'all get? What are some things that are still in effect? How old can Cadet Walensky, when he wants to run for Congress, how old does he have to be? 25. 7 years of sentence. Why did they care about? Were they worried about illegal immigration back in 1787? Why were they worried about being a citizen? Did they have people? Did they have people immigrating from Canada and coming into America back in 1786? Worried about that? What were they worried about? Blacks? Native Americans? They weren't citizens of America, right? They were only here for 1,000 years before us. 1,500 years. No, what were they worried about coming over and taking over America?
British.
Ding, 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 ding. Good job. The British. You had to be American. You couldn't be British and come over here and be king or elected. So that was kind of weird. So you know what? You look at this and you go, see, these boys are worried about illegal immigration back then? No, they didn't care a bit about it. They didn't even know about it. They wanted people to come over here. America's built on immigration. But back then, they cared about the British coming over and taking over. Let's see. What are some things they struck out there in Section 2?
You have to live at the state where you're chosen.
Yes. And you know what? Out here in the West, that's not a big deal. But in the East, where you can drive 10 miles and be across a river and be in Connecticut or New York or Rhode Island, that can matter. Okay? I mean, they really does matter. What else? What do they take out of the Section 2 there? Article 1. What's been changed?
They changed the amount of votes that each state has because obviously the population is...
Exactly. And you know what? They didn't think about that. They go, man, we're lucky to have 13. Those original people in the Constitution looked at the continent of North America and never dreamed that we would go to Pacific. They never had an idea. Remember, again, when they're doing that, the Appalachians, that was the far west. Ohio was the far west. That was the boonies. You got shot out there. You got eaten by the bad guys. And again, when we get later on, Oklahoma was the Indian Territory. When you rounded up those Indians in that horrible state of South Carolina where I'm from, all my ancestors were called Choctaw. And they were all rounded up and forced to move out west, which is Oklahoma. And the entire state of Oklahoma was Indian reservation. That's where you all rounded them up. We'll stick them out way out west. We won't ever move out there. That was just Oklahoma. These people had no idea what we were doing, what we did. What about that? The excluding, determined by the whole number of free persons. Who's a free person? Whites in general, although some of them were indentured. You know, some of you did have a white slave. You had some white slaves. You were a slave, including those bound to service for a term of years, meaning indentured people, but excluding who? Indians. They lived in America, and we, of course, all this affected them, but they didn't count. 3/5 of all other persons with a capital P. Who's that? Ding, 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 ding. Yes, African Americans, basically. And Africans, as they were called back then. So in the whole Constitution, how many times is the word slave mentioned? A few times? Where? Show me the word slave. Show me where it talks about slavery in the Constitution.
The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit.
Where does it talk about slaves, though? Those are just persons.
That's true.
It uses.
Ding, 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 ding. This is my theory. I mean, I'm teaching you history. I have a theory that the people who wrote the Constitution knew that when we talk about inalienable rights, all men are created equal, that they knew there was going to be a problem with slavery. But the South was run on slavery. The North was not. The South paid a lot of taxes. They had a lot of rich people down there. You had to fight a war to get away from Britain. And they decided, specifically Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, decided to not address the slavery question in 1776 or 1787. And what is really interesting is when Thomas Jefferson died 50 years later, he died 50 years to the day of July 4th, 1776. 50 years later, so that would have been 1826. When he died, he started writing letters to his original people who are still alive. And in those, Thomas Jefferson, who was recognized as one of the final Renaissance men, knew almost everything about almost everything. He wrote in these letters that greater men than us will have to answer the question of the other persons. What does that mean?
That one day they're going to have to deal with slavery.
Is that pretty amazing, guy, to know that in here they don't talk about slavery at all. They talk about other persons. You don't want to insult the Southern people by saying slavers, but they put other persons and greater men than the smartest president ever been. Who's the greater man than Thomas Jefferson who had addressed the slave problem?
Abraham Lincoln.
Is that amazing? Yeah, I just have a new movie out I went and saw. So I'm just telling you, these guys are smart. I mean, they're humble and they were smart and they knew what was going on. So no, the word slavery is never in our Constitution because of political purposes. And I truly believe the people who started it knew that it was going to be a problem. So guess what? How much does a slavery count for you going to Congress?
2/5.
3/5. 60%. Okay, so I got to have 5 of you slaves over there to equal 3 white men, right? Isn't that crazy? How did that negotiation come down? Why is it 3/5 for every slave? Yes, sir.
If it was a whole vote per slave, then the South would outvote.
South Carolina would have been a president. South Carolina would have been the capital of America. You're right. Exactly. That was the huge argument. There were so many slaves in the South. If you had them 1 for 1, there would have been so many representatives from the South that the game would have been over. Yes, ma'am. Okay. We got a couple minutes. All right. Well, we will. Why don't we? Yes. Questions. One last question.
They don't mention slavery in the actual Constitution, but they mention it in the 13th Amendment.
Exactly, of course, because guess what? We grew up and things had changed by then. All right, super. We're going to start right on here the next time we go over this. And why don't we have our videographer? And Cadet Haslam, why don't you come up here and dismiss the class, please?
Flight! Attend! Hut! Dismissed.
Go do great things!